Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of DFV. I am Black Cinephile.
I am AKA Brad.
There is AKA Brad right there. And, on this one, we got to break out the fine China, man. We got a guest in the building as we talk about one of our favorite directors, Satoshi Kon. I want to introduce this person. This is a person in my field that I know, a film critic, a film enthusiast, a Kate Bush enthusiast. Molly, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. No problem at all. We love for guests to join us that love the films we're talking about. Even the ones that even hate them too.
Oh yeah, sometimes that gets the best reactions.
Oh, trust us, we know.
Yes.
The terrible movies that you love to hate always end up to be the most fun.
Of course.
So tell the people a little bit about yourself. What do you how do you interact with film? What do you do?
Well, I come from more of the scholarly background, so I'm one of those, I guess you could say, what the TikTok film Twitter people think actual film Twitter is when it's really not. Even though I would be totally fine with seeing a movie about the revolution, Slovenia, seen through the eyes of a squirrel, because that sounds dope as hell. That was the example I remember from Filter. It's like the shocked face when he watches see a film about a revolution. It's seen through the a vision of a squirrel or a pigeon, and I was like, that sounds dope as hell. I want to watch that. And I'm like, oh, I am in that category right there. But I have 2 film degrees, actually, one bachelor's and one master's. And one thing I will suggest for people, if you want to go for master's in film, go to a place that will pay you. That's just my big suggestion, like I did. So then you're not going to go in too much debt, because you may not get into the field you want to, unfortunately, but that's just how it rolls and everything. But I don't regret it. I don't regret any of that stuff. I love seeing my viewpoints on film and seeing that. And I love also seeing everyone else's viewpoints and love taking that in turn and looking through the scholarly analysis of film. But also, I just love film and I just enjoy it. And random, but you're the second podcast that has mentioned me as a Kate Bush enthusiast, and I'm kind of loving it.
It's all over your social. Every time I hit up your Twitter, I see nothing but Kate Bush, and I'm like, this girl is ride or die Kate Bush, man.
I have been even more now, but I've been a fan of her since I was 19, even before Stranger Things. Yes, and in America, it's mostly it's that, who is Kate Bush? And you bring up things like, oh, Running Up That Hill, or this woman's work. Oh, you mean the Placebo and Maxwell song? And you're just like, no. No, but now Stranger Things has changed that, thank goodness. If you guys can't see, I have a poster of her right here for Lionheart, so her second album.
Oh, okay. I see that La Dolce Vita in the background too.
Oh, yes, I do. And one for Jack Hill for an event I had at my undergrad with exploitation filmmaker Jack Hill, who directed Coffee, Foxy Brown, and Spider Baby, and basically launched Pam Grier's career. And he was such a nice guy and everything. And I got to see them on the big screen. It was fantastic. And he was a very nice individual. So that was fun. So I have that poster and it's signed and I'm never getting rid of it. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
That is awesome. All right. Well, that's awesome. So today, Brad, looks like we got a good one here. The first time we hit up Satoshi, we were talking about it was Perfect Blue and Paprika.
Yep, we went over both of those complete mind thrillers of movies that he came up with. Yes. Oh, absolute master. Well, everything Satoshi Kon touches is an absolute masterpiece.
Of course.
And today we will be going over 2 of his other movies that he had, Millennium Actress, as well as Tokyo Godfathers, which Tokyo Godfathers is actually the one that people seem to know the most, especially here in the United States. So being able to touch on this one is a big one.
Yeah, I feel like that was the first one I kind of heard of. Like this is my first time seeing either of this episode. But like
Nice.
Tokyo Godfathers, I'd always heard of that film, and I was like, oh, I heard that's like a classic like animated film, but I never like really watched it. But how you want to do this, Brad? How you want to do this today?
I think it's only fair that we go chronological in this one, starting with Millennium Actress.
Chronological. All right, it's a little. All right, we can do it. A little controversial, but okay. We don't always do chronological, but we'll do it since a guest is here.
Yeah, there's a first time for everything.
Yeah.
Right. All right, man. You wanna take over Millennium, and I'll do the Tokyo for the quick synopsis.
Yep. So I can take care of Millennium Actress. So from the brilliant mind of Satoshi Kon, we have Millennium Actress, which follows the story of Chiyoko, a huge actress in this world that is being interviewed by two people, Genya and Kyoji, who have gone to her place to kind of find out her life story as an actress, as well as Genya's opportunity to return an heirloom of hers that he had come across and wanted to make sure to bring back to her in her old age. So after 30 years of being completely outside of the spotlight, she is for the first time allowing somebody to interview her, which allows these two people to go through her life story as it interjects between her real life and her life as an actress in the movies that she played. And that is the basis synopsis for this movie.
Dude, I gotta admit, when I first was watching this, I didn't know what was going on. I tried my best to focus. I said, okay, we seeing her as a kid. Now I'm seeing them when she's a kid. I'm like, oh, okay, this is part of going through her life. And then I'm like, wait a minute, she's in a movie now?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I like the thing about Satoshi Kon is like you never really know what's reality and you know what's not reality in most of his pictures. And like in this one's like a firm like kind of like a firm component of that, you know what I mean? Like when he first shows up to the house and he's like the assistant director's like hey, you know, isn't this woman a little old? She never ages. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But as you go through her life, she ages, but she's like eternally like young, you know what I'm saying?
Hence the title Millennium Actress.
Yeah, it took me a while to kind of catch on to that one too. But Brad, this your first time seeing this?
Oh no, not at all. It's Satoshi Kon. You know, there's a reason that I've recommended his movies multiple times because I absolutely love him as a director and a writer. And as you mentioned, with the way that this movie flows, which going into reality versus her movies and everything like that. And we see it all kind of from this perspective of the two interviewees as they're almost documenting her life as it's happening. And seeing all these different kind of points in her life where you don't know, hold on, is this real or is this a part of the movie, as it kind of weaves in and out of both.
Yeah. Molly, this how many times have you seen this movie?
This is actually my third time seeing it. I first saw it in undergrad, and it was my first Satoshi Kon film. I watched this together with Perfect Blue, and this was the first one I saw. But this was the first time I watched the English dub. I decided to check out the English dub for both of these, just because there's some purists who are just like, you have to watch them all in the Japanese version. I say, I want to see the intricacies and how they adapt this to English.
Yeah, that's down to preference.
Yeah, exactly. And I first became interested in the film because I heard it was inspired by one of my favorite Japanese actresses of post-war cinema, Japanese cinema, which is what her Chiyoko's main film stardom happened. It was post World War II Japanese cinema, and that's where you had Kurosawa, Kenji Mitsuguchi, and Yasujiro Ozu, who is the director I'm mostly thinking about because it was Setsuko Hara, who is the main actress that inspired the character right here. And I had been obsessed with her, almost like Genya a little bit with Chiyoko, because I first saw her in Kurosawa's adaptation of Dostoevsky's The Idiot, because I was a huge fan of Dostoevsky. So just string theory right here going to that. And I started watching her films a lot, including Tokyo Story, Late Spring, which is my favorite, and is on Science Sound's greatest film poll. I think it's in the top 10, and that's Yosujiro Ozu's. That's the highest rated Yosujiro Ozu film besides Tokyo Story. And watching her, and she's just so magnetic. You can't help but fall in love with her. And much like Chioku, she never married. And after Yasujiro Ozu died, she retired. She retired in middle age and went to reclusivity. And it was nobody knew she died at 95 until 2 years after her death. I was shocked when I first heard it. I was just like, what? Because she never gave interviews. She never spoke to anybody. And it was this question of what happened to this enigmatic woman. And I actually really connected with Gin in this film because I was just like, oh, I had this parasocial relationship with this woman too. And that there are these actresses and you're thinking they do never grow up and they do never age and you just want to love them and protect them. And I think a lot of actresses are like that. And Setsuko Hara is one of mine, definitely. And that's why I became engrossed by this film and why it's probably my favorite Satoshi Kon film because it really understands obsession and kind of
it's like a love letter to acting.
Exactly. And
yeah,
and Satoshi Kon loves looking at obsessions in his work, including, or even Paranoia Agent. I think it's the apotheosis of obsession and living
I still gotta watch that one.
And denial. Oh, it's fantastic. And
that's the series, right?
Yes.
I'll get him to watch it eventually. Don't worry.
Yes.
It's on our list, I think.
Yes. And it's fascinating to look at because if you haven't noticed in a bunch of his films, he really dislikes the otaku subculture, even though in Paprika he got to that point where he's like, yes, I understand a lot of my fans are like this, so I at least like some of them, but it is very much there. And this is one of his films where obsession is actually played very heartwarming. And you don't really see that in Satoshi Kon's films. It's where obsession and trying to live in fantasy and this.
It can be dangerous.
Exactly.
Very dangerous.
Exactly. And that's a lot of what Satoshi Kon's work is. But this one, it's the opposite, where it's healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of heart behind this. I like that. Like, you know, like you said, the relationship between Genya and Chiyoko.
Genya, yes.
Say it again.
No, I just realized I mispronounced his name. Genya, you're right.
Genya, yeah. Genya and Chiyoko.
We butcher names all the time. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
It's always like that here. But you know, there's a level of respect there, and it's like I don't know if obsession is the right word, but I would say like if it is such a word to use, it's a healthy amount of obsession. Yes. You know what I mean? And like you said, the film is a love letter to acting, but on the levity side of things, I just love like Koyoji's role in all of this. There'll be times where he's just filming and he's like wait a minute, you telling me we in a movie right now?
Right, yeah.
And then there's moments where like, you know, like stuff's hitting the fan and they're fighting and there's battles, and you know, Genya's getting involved with the fight. Like I love how Genya is like about it this whole movie, like willing to die for his favorite actress's honor, and Koji's on the side with the camera like, hey, it's your funeral, I'm just filming it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I even love when they show how they're actually talking to each other and they're actually playing out like the roles from the film as well in the interview and everything. And Kyoji's kind of just sitting off to the side going, yeah, okay, so this is what we're doing, I guess. This is how we're doing it.
I just roll the film. Let's just go with this.
Right.
I like the little comments he makes towards every time Genya shows up with a new costume or something. He goes, "Oh, that fits you, boss.
Yeah.
Oh, that role fits you, boss.
You go, boss."
Yeah. I think you're in the wrong period piece at this point.
Yes.
Or I was waiting to see where you would show up.
Now, the whole thing with the key, you know, I felt like it was a nice thing to kind of keep the plot going, to go like, okay, where does the key lead to? Who is this mysterious guy and all that? Yeah. By the end, I kind of felt like, I don't know, I kind of was a little disappointed by the end. What did y'all feel? Like, I didn't feel like there was a resolution I kind of wanted about the key and what it meant.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I saw the. Oh,
oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, I saw the key as not only this nostalgia piece for Chiyoko, but it was certainty that her passion, I don't want to call it, well, it's a love. She's in love with love. She barely knows this guy, and she's
Right.
created this fantasy of who he is. She just knows he's a painter from Hokkaido, and that's about it. And she saved his life. And so she's chasing a shadow. And the key is reformation that, oh, what we had could have been real. And it's actually happened because I'm pretty sure
Mm.
if no one else saw the key, no one, everybody else would probably be like, oh, she's just imagining this. This is just an imagine that just girl just thinking some making something up, but that's just proving that maybe there is something true to this love, and maybe there is something there that she needs to return to. And also the key is why she is a big reason why she goes to the film industry to try to for him to find her again. And
Mm.
I actually thought it was a great resolution. I thought it would be very disappointing if she turned out to have found the guy in the end, or because she even says, I turned middle age. I don't want him to remember me as anything but this little girl, which I think harkens back to a lot of how we see a lot of women in cinema that we don't like seeing them aged. That's why we just replace them with younger and younger actresses. And that's unfortunately a real thing that we have, a real stigma against women growing older. And we have to combat that, and we have to look at that. So
I gotta admit, I do kind of get sad when I see. I know it's a part of life. I do kind of get sad when I see Denzel age. I'm like, man, he ain't man, he ain't he ain't man on fire Denzel no more. Like
no.
I can't watch The Equalizer and take him as a charismatic, intimidating figure anymore. I'm like,
No.
he's Uncle Denzel now. I
He
can't
can't
watch
be
this.
he can't be Easy Rollins anymore. That's the
Right.
sexiest he's ever been in a movie. And I'm like, he can't be Easy Rollins anymore. He's too old now. I'm sad.
Right. All right, Brad, you was
Yeah.
about to say something about the key.
Yeah, a lot of what Molly touched on with the fact that she was more in love with chasing the idea of this mysterious person than the person himself. So her even kind of at the end when she passes away, she even says that she was in love with the chase, not the person himself, which shows that that was something for her to grasp onto to kind of give her hope and give her a drive to do something. So the key did have a purpose in her life. It was the one point that she was like, she became an actress because she wanted him to be able to see her and hopefully come back into her life. She pursued the career to be like a huge person in the world in order to be able to finally be viewed by this person for that opportunity. And then when the people kept arriving in her life throughout it that she would meet and everything, she would kind of always push it aside because she had this one goal in mind. And eventually she did lose the key and it comes back to her again, and then she loses it again. And that's up until the point when Genya brings it back to her at the end, when she even says, it's thanks to this key that I have the memories to be able to talk to you about my life. You know, this is the one point in my life that I can put everything to.
See, now I like that part. Now I like the part of this whole chase being the main motivation behind her career. I like how the film frames that. Like, you know, I'm not living to act, I'm acting to live. You know, I'm doing these roles as a way of, like, you know, pushing me forward in life. Like, you know, this is something that fuels my passion of finding this man, understanding this key. But this is what I do to process my loss of this man. You know, I guess it's part of processing her grief of, like, not being able to find this man that gave her this key. Now, I feel like there are layers to this film, man. I can tell after one watch, you know, I might need repeat viewings to, like, really deconstruct everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't even know about the actress that you named, Molly, that inspired this movie.
Yeah, Satoshi always takes a lot of kind of influence from real life for his movies, whether it be something from like a psychological standpoint or
Right.
something from his life or from the people that he looks up to in the media he enjoys. You see a lot of that, especially in Paprika, with like the media that he enjoys and the kind of like movies that he enjoys get kind of incorporated into there a little bit.
Yeah, because it's about how film it's what it says with some critics on here. Like, it's about how film rests in our subconscious. You know what I mean? Like, whether we admit it or not, cinema is escapism for the most part, but there are moments we love in cinema that rest in our subconscious, you know, and whether it be the actresses, a director's piece of like work, you know, there are these moments that we carry with us, whether it be a quote from a favorite movie or a line or a scene from a favorite movie, or watching a movie with our kids or our young nieces and nephews and sharing that experience, you know, that rests within our minds. And I feel like that's Satoshi's like part of his salute in this film, so to speak. I'm just glad this didn't have a dark ending, because I was expecting some Perfect Blue kind of mic drop, like,
oh yeah,
oh no, is everyone gonna die?
Yeah.
Like, I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the I guess bittersweet conclusion we got here. What about you, Molly?
I think this was the best way to end the film from the particular view. And once she revealed her story, what else was there for her to do? Because I kind of have the theory that she knew in her subconscious that there is a chance the painter died because police were already after him. And but she always knew that the chase was better, and that's what she cared about more, because she never really explores what she would have done if she met him again. There's no imaginations of her getting married to him for the most part, nothing like that. We don't even see that. So we have to wonder, did she know or have the inkling all this time that he had been killed, especially after World War II and after she had been in that film career so long? Because otherwise he didn't come to her. And she was in all the movies. She was a bona fide movie star. And random,
Yeah,
but it's also fascinating to watch this film when movie stars are kind of dying. And it's entirely about
that
the
is
obsession
true.
with a movie star. How does that make you guys feel?
So we know there's been some discussion about Marvel and movie stars and Tarantino's 2 cents with that. You know, it just happened to just come
Yes.
up around this time. This is a perfect time to watch this movie then. See, I do agree that the Marvel and DC films don't create movie stars, they create superheroes. I
Yes.
do think there are exceptions to the rule. Like, I think RDJ made Iron Man. I don't think
Yes.
Iron Man made RDJ.
Yes, I
Like,
agree with that one.
you were going to a Robert Downey Jr. movie. You just happened to go to a great Marvel movie in the process. Chadwick and Black Panther are that's a little dicey, because I feel like even when you see the new Black Panther movie, it doesn't feel the same without Chadwick.
Yeah.
And when you see Chadwick, you see Black Panther, but you also see Chadwick. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that was, yeah. Whereas Captain America, that's a Captain America movie. It's not a Chris Evans movie.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, it is a little different. The movie star is becoming extinct. You know, Tom Cruise still walks the earth in cinema. Brad Pitt still walks the earth in cinema. But those names, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you see a Brad Pitt being replaced by Austin Butler?
No, not at all.
You know what I mean?
No.
Or, you know, even a Tom Holland replacing a Jude Law. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, movie stars. What do you think, Brad?
I mean, we make the jokes all the time that people don't see the person behind the character anymore. They just see the character. Like with the recent Weird Al movie. Oh, hey, Harry Potter's in this movie. It's you don't really have the big movie stars anymore. You just have the characters that they embodied, and that's all that people see now. It's very hard for somebody to be out of that kind of groove.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
Any more thoughts before we cap this off and go to the next one?
I do really want to talk about one of the scenes in the movie where we kind of get into when it was Genya started working at kind of the movie studio and
Yes.
was actually working with Chiyoko for a long period of time.
The intern.
Yes, as the intern. And
that was a nice
even
revelation.
saved her life at one point.
Yes.
And Chiyoko kind of going, how is it possible that I've been so blind to not notice the person in front of me is the very person that saved my life, though all those years ago? You know, and it kind of puts it a little bit more into perspective, a lot of why Genya was so obsessed with her and everything like that.
Yes.
Because he literally got to see her rise from a first person stance in the industry and everything, and saw it as it slowly, you know, grew further and further before she just disappeared from, you know, the world entirely.
Exactly, yes. And I think that's a common occurrence with a lot of celebs, and it's surprising when it's not. There's a story of Joan Crawford having to work with the young Steven Spielberg. He was 24 at CBS Studios in this episode, and she thought to herself, "Oh God, I'm being directed by this kid and everything." But he impressed her so much, and she told them, and the producer said, "Keep an eye on that one. He's going places." And that's just rarely happens because you don't think about the intern. Most of these people don't. They don't think about the production assistants or who's carrying their umbrella or who's bringing that stuff, because you know they're just as vital to the crew as the star is, because without them they wouldn't get made. So it's fascinating to see that. And also the foreshadowing in this film is spectacular where Genya stops when the policeman stops him in one flashback, and it's supposed to foreshadow with that cop who brings him the realization that he killed that painter, because he was stopping to chat with him in the movie sequence right there. And Satoshi was already doing that. And also, I'm not sure if you guys noticed the crane symbolism in the movie. There are a lot of cranes in this movie, which in Japanese culture,
I
I'm
didn't
sure
notice that.
Yes, you see it on the truck, you see it in some of the movies and everything. And I'm not sure if you guys ever read or were traumatized by the Thousand Paper Crane story. If you guys,
I don't know what that is.
that is the true story of this young Japanese girl who was a baby when Hiroshima was bombed, but she developed leukemia from radiation when she was 7, and she was told if there was 1,000 paper cranes she made, she could get a wish. And she spent her days in the hospital dying of radiation, creating these paper cranes. And this is a real person too. And she still died and didn't even finish the cranes. And so everybody else made it for her. There's a statue for her and everything. Just look at 1,000 paper cranes and you'll see it, because cranes are symbols of wishes and immortality, which makes sense because the stars are immortal, and why the crane
That's
is
crazy.
So yeah, you guys weren't traumatized by that story. I was traumatized by that in elementary school, and that's also why.
You hear it in elementary, I imagine being traumatized. Nowadays, it's like, oh man, that's a beautiful, heartbreaking story. But in elementary, I'd be like, what? Why didn't she finish the cranes?
I know. I was just like, if she finished those cranes, she could have lived. But yes, that's what I always think about when I think of crane symbolism, because that's very high. That's strong Japanese symbolism for immortality and wishes. So I always notice was like, oh, it's a crane in Japan. So yeah. So next time you watch it, look out for the crane symbolism.
Yeah, I definitely plan on giving this repeat watches for sure. Yeah, man. So much to unpack in this one. Pretty great first watch for me. I think it's a very well done film. You know, I put it in the same vein as Perfect Blue, not as dark, but very like well done. Okay, so this is around the part where we give our ratings like out of 5 on a scale of 1 to 5, and I got this one like a 4 for the first time watch. What you got, Brad?
I have this one as a 4.5. The imagery in this one, the storytelling, the way that it blends in all the characters that are there, even with Kyoji and his kind of third party kind of commentary throughout the entire thing is kind of nice. But seeing how it all blends in with the story and the message and everything, I love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
What you got, Molly?
I think I'm going to do about the same, about 4.5.
Nope.
Perfect Blue just nearly edges it out to perfect Satoshi Kon film. And I think, even though it's my favorite Satoshi Kon, I am that kind of person that's just like, it's my favorite, but I don't think it's the best, if that makes sense. But yes, I just think it's perfect. That's also the first collaboration he had with his main composer, Susumi Hirasawa, the experimental electronica musician. That's why you got all that fantastic scores that he just has in all the films after with Satoshi Kon, which I think his best work is probably Paprika, because it's just perfectly.
Oh yeah, that's a great score.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, awesome. All right, time to move on to the next one. We got Tokyo Godfathers here, man. Now, this is a one that I feel like it's been chasing me my whole life. I just never sat down and actually watch it. But just to give a brief synopsis, we got written and directed by Satoshi Kon, 2003. So this film, inspired by a film from 1948 called Three Godfathers. This is about a film about three transients. You know, we got one woman that's a young girl that's a runaway named Mayuki. We have a transgender woman named Hana. We got a middle-aged drunkard named Jin. On Christmas Eve, they come across a newborn, and hidden in trash. And they try to decide, like, okay, what should we do with this thing? Like, should we care for it? Hannah wants to care for it. Jin thinks they shouldn't have anything to do with it. Mayuki is just freaked out. But eventually they decide we have to find this baby's parents. So in a nutshell, quick synopsis, this film is about the odyssey of these three people, their past, how they came to be homeless, and trying to figure out the identity of this baby and how it got where it came from, how it ended up like this. And that's pretty much it. So also my first watch on seeing this film, and this was just lovely, man. I felt like this whole film was just a great, unpredictable ride. I felt like it was a very heartfelt movie. But I like that it wasn't one note the entire time. I like that this film, I was like, okay, so this is kind of like this is like the Odd Couple times three, like basically like three odd people and a baby is basically what this is. But I like how it went on, like Satoshi Kon, like he has the layers. There are the layers being shown in these characters, and I as we delve deep into the past of each of these characters, I said, like, dude, this is a good movie. And as the plot went along, the plot was like pretty unpredictable too. Like it was something to behold here. Brad, I know this ain't your first time seeing this, is it?
Oh, not at all. Again, this is, I think when I first started trying to find a way to throw some like anime movies into the mix, this was one of the first ones that I had on the list. It was just, this is a December movie because it literally is a Christmas movie, with it taking place on Christmas to New Year's. So it had to wait until then. But this movie is absolutely fantastic in every way that I can think, when it comes to the way that they have the three homeless people described with their own kind of backgrounds and reason for them being in that situation. You have Jin, who is that kind of deadbeat person that got addicted to gambling, ruined his family's life, and decided to run away. You have Miyuki, who believes that she has ruined her relationship with her parents and everything after a misunderstanding led to her stabbing her father and running away. And then you have Hannah, who literally feels like she doesn't belong anywhere in the world because she made mistakes in her life and she was originally abandoned as a child herself.
Yeah. Molly, what was like when you first saw this film, or just rewatching it right now, what's your initial reactions and revisiting it?
Well, I will say this is my third time watching it, and this is actually
Nice.
the only Satoshi Kon film I've seen in a theater, because they play this film a lot in the independent theaters near me during Christmas time, especially because it's one of those unconventional Christmas movies they really love, and they always want to bring it in. In fact, my local Alamo Draft House is going to be playing it on Monday the 12th. And
I never been to an Alamo ever.
Oh, it's pretty fun. It's pretty nice. And this is also one I checked first time I checked the English dub, and this was the G Kids English dub. And if you aren't aware, I think they do a much better job with the English dubs than Disney ever did. Because, well, first off, Hana is in this version voiced by a transgender actress, which I don't think happened before, not even in the original Japanese, and her foster mother is voiced by gender theorist Kate Borenstein, who wrote a very seminal text on transgender and gender perspective called Gender Outlaw in 1995 or 98, so very early on. In fact, I even posted on Twitter and said someone must have been a gender studies theorist, or someone really, really did a lot of research, and they wanted to be very, very considerate of a lot of trans viewers and people who care about trans issues watching that film, because I know a lot of trans people who love anime, and anime is an escape for a lot of queer people. And it just warms my heart to see G Kids care so much about that. And if you watched Belle, the voice actress they got to play the titular character, she was just a New York stage actress, not even on Broadway. And they heard her sing in a club, and they said, or a cafe, and they said, we really want you to audition for this role. And that's how she got it. And she's just a perfect match for that. And they did a tremendous job. But it's also heartwarming to see how well Hana, well, at least Hana's never dead named in this movie. We never know what her assigned name at birth was when she was considered male. And I love that perspective, especially from a 2003 film, when you will see a lot of NCIS stuff or episodes where the sex worker is going to be revealed to have had a penis, and it's like this huge shock, like, oh my god, or
like a sleepaway camp or something.
I know, or the guy finding out the girl he wants to get with is trans, and they go to throw up. That was a big one in the 80s and 90s, and you're just like, guys, it's just a penis. Do you throw up at your own dick? I'm just like, I question you, like, come on people. But yeah, and it's a very nice perspective on that, and to see that they're more than just beyond homeless. That's not their only attribute. And Satoshi Kon, he mentioned in an interview, I read this, he didn't want people to just see them as homeless. They are three-dimensional people, and there are situations that occur. It's not because they're what people think. They're lazy. They don't care. They
got fired, or
they care too much, actually, is the issue there, because Gen feels he's ruined everything with the gambling debts he racked up. So he's so ashamed of himself and has lost his pride, especially in the Japanese society, that patriarchal pride that comes in. That's very highly there.
I think Gen, like, he's the one character where I'm like, dude, you didn't really need to run away. I understand Hannah, and I understand Mayuki, and like, I understand them, but it's like him. I'm like, dude, you didn't need to run away. Like, I love when Hannah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I like when Hannah's like, when she realizes why he really ran away.
Yes.
She said, you told me it was because of this. He says, oh, she says, you told me you were involved with the games. Well, I was at the track.
No, you said you were a professional bike racer. Well, I was at the track every day.
Right. She's like, you lied to me. And it's like, but that's kind of how he is, though. He tells lies for his past to kind of like try to rationalize his past, instead of like owning up, like, it was shame. It was shame.
And he knew that people wouldn't pity him. If they knew the true story, I racked up gambling debts and I felt so ashamed of making my family go into debt that I ran away. Yeah, no one's going to pity you. And he has to earn respect back in the film with the little baby Kyoko that just literally falls in them. Every single time they find the baby in the dumpster, did you guys ever see the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? The gang finds a dumpster. Oh, yeah. Baby. I'm always just like, Tokyo Godfathers, aka the gang finds a dumpster baby. I'm like, oh, poor Kyoko, the baby.
I like the levels that this goes through plot wise as we move along, not just going into their backstory, but like I just love how unpredictable this film is. Like, you know, at one point where they're at the cemetery, you know what I'm saying? Like they're trying to find the clues or whatever. Then they end up at a party being thrown by a Yakuza boss. It was a wedding, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the wedding, his daughter's wedding. Mm-hmm.
It was a wedding, and then Gin sees somebody, and you know it's about to pop off at one point, and then some guy shoots somebody. I'm not.
Yeah, you have the radicalist that was going after the mob boss, and then that radicalist ends up taking Kyoko and Miyuki to his kind of house, I guess, with his mother there. And yeah, this movie constantly is driving all over the place with its plot, and it all still feels very tight at the same time because it's
like a live action movie.
Yes.
It feels very live action. Like if this was live action, this would be, but that's the thing. It's great because it's animated and feels like a live action movie. But if this was live action, this would be lit. It's already lit, but it would be really lit. But go ahead.
Yeah, just the way that everything kind of intertwines with each other as well, because like you said, Jin runs into people that or the guy that put him up for that last bet that threw him into so much debt at that wedding. And then meanwhile, we get introduced to Hannah's mother, who is, also kind of a I guess that's like a drag queen kind of place that they go to. And
I think it's that she's trans as well.
I believe so, but I think that the place that she's at is like a drag queen kind of bar.
Yes,
if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And so we kind of get introduced to them that way, and then they just happen to have found Jin after he got beat up by some kids after they had been separated from each other. And you see just all these kind of like weird coincidences of how these people are getting brought back together in these scenarios. And it's
Christmas miracle.
It's always a Christmas miracle.
Yes. It's also that rare depiction of Japanese Christian traditions, because Japanese, as you've seen from the movie, if you ever watched the movie Silence by Martin Scorsese, where Japanese Christians were a persecuted class, and it's still a very small number of Japanese Christians in society, and it's fascinating to see it treated with a sort of reverence in that regard. And of course, I think the most famous Japanese Christian I can name of is Toshiro Mifune, who was Methodist, which I found surprising because I grew up Methodist. So I'm just like, that's surprising considering that's not even Catholic. So, but yeah, and you have that entail that. And there's also this change in the English dub they brought in where they find Gen, he's in this dress and everything, and Miyoko in the original Japanese, she says something just like, oh, you've been gay this whole time, I knew it, that sort of thing. But this one, she says in the English dub, she's like, is there something you want to tell us like, except very teasingly, that sort of thing, and not being like homophobic about it, which I really appreciate with that. Just like, I like that change. I like that perspective you bring in. And of course, it's also a perspective that's not a very protected part of Japan, even though it is fetishized a lot. And of course, men cross-dressing and drag queens have always been a part of Japanese culture. No theater had men always playing the women parts. And it's always been very common.
Funeral Parade of Roses starred an actual drag queen who also played the fool in Akira Kurosawa's Ron, where they cross dressed as well as in women's clothing.
You mean Ran?
Rand, yes, Rand, that's right. So
okay.
It's always been a part of that cultural space, but it's kind of looked down upon, and there are still a lot of trans people in Japan that are persecuted, and Japan doesn't even have gay marriage legalized yet. So
y'all see what we got her on? Like just the truth, just the bombs that's being dropped with each of these films. He's like, yeah, and this film was inspired by this actress. I was like, I didn't even know that. Usually I'm the one looking up background stuff. I was like, I didn't know this film was inspired by that actress and all this and all that.
Like movie time to do some research.
Right.
There's a lot that comes with that degree. I mean, you know what I mean? Like for sure.
Yes, it does. And also it's fun to see Satoshi Kon, as you said, because it is adapted from a live action movie, American Western film with John Wayne, to take it into present day Tokyo anime film. So as you're saying, it was inspired by live action to go to anime again, which was very nice. Also, what did you guys think of the facial expressions in this film? Because
I love how animated this movie is with everything. Even talking about when Hannah is giving like the speech at the hospital to Jin about everything, just how animated her face is throughout the entire thing, with like the little snide remarks and the side eye. And
I like it. It was on the train where Mayuki saw her dad. Like, and you see them looking at each other through the windows, and the whole time Mayuki is freaking out about what she's gonna do when her dad, he's in the train the whole time trying to get out, like, hey. Like, you don't know who this guy is at this point, but I just love the expression on his face, and you're like, okay, something's going down. I like the way that was drawn. I like how, like you said, like snide faces and everything. Like, there was real. It was animated, but it was animated with strong emotion. You know what I'm saying? I like that. And I just want to say, man, that final act with when they feel like they find the mother, you know what I'm saying? Like I love how Hannah smacks her.
She stole a baby.
Oh yeah. I love how Hannah smacks her, like, how could you leave the baby in the dump like that? And she's like, oh no, it was my husband's the reason, and everything like that. And then you're like, oh man, it's a great resolution. He's the baby's with his mom now. And then you find out, oh no, they're not even the parents. I was like, man, I love the twists and turns in this movie. And I love the final chase scene too.
Well, yeah, even talking about the scene on the bridge a little bit, I love how they basically were passing by, and she's talking about, if we don't get the baby back to its mother, if this was my situation, I'd be taking off my shoes neatly, stepping over a ledge and looking over at the sweet release of death. And then in the background you have somebody doing the exact thing. They save her, and then they pull her down and go, wait a minute, I recognize you. And Hannah's first thing is just smack. Yeah.
I was just like, Hannah is best girl. She is always the best.
Oh yeah,
the best character in this film. And of course, I love that you brought up just taking off my shoes nicely, just because that's such a demurely Japanese female thing to do. Just like, oh, it's their suicide was supposed to be demure, because originally men would just do the seppuku, where it's like in the gut, but women they have to do the throat slit, but they also had to tie their knees together so they could fall in a nice pose. I was like, oh God, even your suicide has to be demure and ladylike. What is this? But,
gotta stay classy even in death.
Yes.
Yeah, I look at it in some kind of twisted way. I think I look at it as a self-dignity thing, and I go, okay. I mean, suicide's still sad, but okay, I guess. Like, I guess do it with dignity and class. But I hear what you're saying. Like, even like taking off the shoes. Yeah, that is wild. I want to say that final scene where they're on the ledge. like my like this is an animated film. My heart kind of dropped. I'm like, what is going on? Like the baby like
And the
dropped
baby-
like 3 times. It like at some point it
like,
dropped.
No.
Right. And then Hannah's the last one to get her. And you know, you think, you know, Hannah's about to fall, and then you know, she gets on that thing. And this moment's a little random, but I said, okay, the sun just comes out. And then all of a sudden
the gust of wind picks up.
Wind.
Right. And she's just floating.
It's
still
a Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
Right. This baby has
miracle.
This baby has the luck of fools. Like you just can't take this baby down.
For being a dumpster baby, it's got the best luck of anyone in the world.
Exactly.
It really does, though. It does.
Exactly. That's like such a cute baby. I was just like, oh. And of course, Hannah's been truly blessed by God. As she said, I must have been blessed by God to be given a chance to be a mother when I never was. And I'm like, oh, Hannah just wants to be a mother. And now she gets to sort of be as a godparent at the end. So you're like, oh, yes.
Yeah, that is. Go ahead.
Sorry. One thing I wanted to bring up with the facial expressions, I'm sure you guys noticed that Satoshi Kon, when he draws the characters, they look very much distinctly Japanese. They don't look like, they're not going to look like Sailor Moon or those other Sojo, stuff like that, or even like Studio Ghibli style, and even to the point of exaggeration that the facial expressions almost look ugly at points. Which I think in most anime is meant to denote you're supposed to laugh at this character, but I don't see that in Satoshi Kon's work. I think we're supposed to also be humanizing with even the ugliest characters in his works, which I find remarkable to watch and look at. And it's kind of this rejection of the otaku culture. Because otaku culture is all obsessed with that anime, with like that prettified anime that every character looks so similar, that same still style, kind of like the Disney princesses, except Japanese.
Right.
So I find that very fascinating and interesting to watch in his work, and that no character looks the same. There's no, except for Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress, there's no repeat of character faces and character bodies and everything. What do you guys think of that with his work?
Oh, I absolutely love it because it does give great character to all the characters that are in this story. It's so easy to tell when that character's in the background or when they're the point of focus and everything like that. It's the unclean kind of animation style where, yeah, like you said, everybody looks very realistic. They have folds in their skin, they have moles, you know, even little baby had the little mole on its forehead that it's showing up throughout in. It kind of is used as that point to tell you we're looking at this baby right now, because we do have little flashback scenes and moments where we aren't seeing that baby, but that's the mark that we know that we're looking at Kyoko. So the way that it plays around with that and everything like that, because even with Miyuki, with her kind of style of look, she does have a very clean face, but she's always wearing these very baggy clothes and this giant scarf and this, you know, big hat and everything. So she still has a very stylized appearance about her at the same time.
And that also foreshadows before, when she lived at a house, she actually was overweight, and she's still wearing the clothes she wore when she ran away. They just have gotten so bad because she's been starving on the street.
Yeah, that reveal of the pictures of her when she was living at home. I remember the first time I was watching this, it was kind of like that. Oh, wow, she completely changed by being in the situation of homelessness. And when you slowly kind of realize her story as she's telling it to the mother of the radicalist, where she had this cat and it disappeared and she blamed her father for the cat's disappearance and everything like that. And eventually, you know, got to a point where she stabbed him, and then she felt like she couldn't return home after that. It's like, okay, that's it. They definitely humanize these characters with their backstories and making you go, okay, I can see why you feel that you don't have any place to turn to. And they mentioned like homelessness, isn't always a choice, but to them it is a choice because it's the only choice that they think they have.
Exactly.
I still feel like Jin didn't need to be there.
Jin didn't, yeah.
I still feel like he didn't need to be there.
As she said, they thought they didn't have a home, but no, they did. They always did.
Yeah, all three of them always had a home.
And the cat still came back and the detective and her dad, who she even thought, he's a policeman, he's going to arrest me and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wanted her home and wanted to know she was safe. And of course, Hana's foster mom wanted her back. And of course, and with his daughter saying, we missed you, we wanted you back, and realizing that this whole time, because of your pride and stubbornness, you could have gone home, but you didn't, because you just can't let yourself feel that everything you did didn't really matter, I guess you could say, or that what your actions were worth forgiving, because you couldn't forgive yourself.
And I love that it's with the baby Kyoko, that it's their selfless act of trying to bring this baby back home, that they all find their respective homes themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love how it ties itself up into a nice bow at the end, where it brings a real smile to my face, where like the inspector is talking to the parents, like, hey, no, the parents tell him, hey, we would like to speak to the people who took care of our baby, we want to make them godparents. He says, okay, well, sure, okay, follow me.
Sure, but they're homeless. Is that okay with you? We don't care. I love that.
Yeah. I love that line. He says, oh, they're homeless, It's like, okay, it's fine. Like,
and they saved our baby.
Right. And when he opens the door, he sees that it's his daughter. She's like, Dad? And I like how the camera pans out. I was like, oh man, that's sweet.
I did feel bad for Hannah being put in the men's ward, like, of the hospital. Like, oh, poor Hannah. She's like, this is the men's ward, isn't it? Like, oh.
Yeah. If y'all all set, I'm all set on this one. You got anything else y'all want to point out in the film before we move to the rating?
Basically just the banter between the three of them throughout the movie is always fantastic to hear, as they kind of treat Miyoki as kind of this little kid, even though she is an adult and everything like that. They always do that. Even when they're coming to the realization that they don't have any other options when it comes to the baby, how Hannah finally admits she thought going to the police was a good idea the entire time. She just didn't want to let go of this moment to be able to take care of a baby, because it might be her only chance.
Yeah, mother.
So yeah, and one scene that always gets a laugh out of me is when they get to the one burned down building that's filled with cats and everything. You have Jin going, I would just love to eat meat for once. And immediately Miyoki is like, don't you dare, and throws an entire, bookcase at, or throws the book bag at him.
Right.
While she's holding her arms out, across all the cats, don't you dare.
And foreshadows the love of for her cat right there. And I love that Hana's desire to be a mother foreshadowed Sachiko, the woman who kidnapped Kyoko, the baby, because of her miscarriage, and her husband who was neglectful and didn't care about her anymore. And she believed, and I think she believed that her love for life and her love for her husband would come back if she had a child, and that didn't happen with the miscarriage. So she turns to desperate measures to have this baby. Even this child, even this woman, they can't fault her, or they can't be angry at her. She's not doing this for malevolent, oh, I must steal this child and everything like that. She's desperate and she's sad. And you kind of want to hug her too. Sachiko is a lot like the homeless people, and they basically are, because you saw when he's talking to the husband, it's a dumpster heap is their house. So it's the same exact dumpster heap, like they are living outside in the cold. And I love the humanization that comes in for Sachiko. And yes, she's doing this terrible thing. She separated this baby from her parents and she's about to commit suicide with her. But you want to hug her and you want to tell her that everything is okay. Life is still worth living, but you can't ruin someone else's life just because yours was ruined too.
Well, at the same time, all of her kind of, its sins are the same sins that the three main characters have, with her life being thrown apart by gambling, the loss of a loved one, and the want for a baby that she can't have,
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with y'all points. Yeah, man, I feel like off the first time watch, man, it's just a strong first time watch to me seeing this film. I gotta give it the DFV 5 out of 5, man. I think this came off instant classic vibes to me. Brad, what you got?
Oh, this has been a 5 out of 5 since I first watched it, and one of the reasons why I've
Anthony,
been pushing this one for as long as I've been trying to push this movie out there to get it onto an episode. Yeah, it's a 5 out of 5.
I'm gonna be different. I think mine's gonna be a 4.5. It's not a 5 for me. I really like more when Satoshi Kon goes into the more surreal, such as Paranoia Agent and Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress. I really like that, but it still has that great social commentary he is just a master of, and I love that. And it's a great film. What else can you say? And a Christmas classic.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. All right, so I think when it comes down head to head, we got Tokyo winning here. I think that's like the grade scale we got.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Satoshi Kon and getting like a very good movie out there that everybody can enjoy, Tokyo Godfathers, like Molly said, is a Christmas classic, and it should, everybody that has a moment of kind of going, I need a new Christmas movie that hasn't seen this, you need to check it out immediately.
Oh yeah, I definitely would recommend it. Absolutely. All right, so quick after show topics. I know you've seen it, Molly. Brad, have you seen the Sight and Soul? I mean, the Sight and Soul, Sight and Sound top 10 films of the year. I think they do top 100, but basically the consensus of the top 10 films of the year.
I have not seen it yet.
Oh, well, I wish you would have saw it. Well, Molly, what's your reaction to the new list that came out this year, and like how it's changed and put Chantal Ackerman's Jean Dillman to the not top number one spot?
Jill Dillman. I think it's a very appropriate suggestion. Somebody actually put it out very well, that it is kind of like watching an ASMR at points of a woman peeling potatoes, cooking food, doing dishes at times. You're like, this is kind of an ASMR. Chantal Ackerman was predicting the future here with this. And also shining a spotlight on the female and what the female does in her day-to-day life, and having to do the washing, the cooking, and you really get the perspective that time is slowly passing, which a lot of people like, this is so boring and inaccessible. It's just, that's kind of the point, is that it's supposed to be that way. There's this, I know I have to give another shout out to Kate Bush here. There's this song she did called Mrs. Bartolozzi in her album Ariel. And people thought she went insane for it, because the chorus is her going, washing machine. And she's singing about putting clothes up and cleaning and wondering when her love is coming back, and that the tumbling of the clothes reminds her of her husband's clothes being cleaned in there. And male critics were just, okay, she's gone completely insane right here. We thought she was kind of insane before, but she's gone full on bonkers after this 12-year absence, just singing about washing machines and cleaning and all. Just like, it's the exact same critique, especially a lot of male perspective, that male view, that just, why is this important? Why is this part of a woman's life important? And it's telling them that, it's telling women especially that these lives don't matter to them. These points of view don't matter to them. And that's the subconscious level of what they're saying, even though they're saying it's boring. Why do I care if you're peeling potatoes or making a veal cutlet or that sort of thing? But that's a life a lot of women have in this world. Even now, when they're working full-time jobs, most women are still doing the cooking and the cleaning, or predominantly doing that. So, and it's a great perspective to look at, and I'm glad that this movie is in it. It's a masterpiece. I recommend everyone.
It is. No, it is a masterpiece. I'll be real though. Like when I saw John Dillman in college, I was in a film class and we were watching it. Like every time we went to this one room where we screen it on this big screen, I was like, oh, we going to the screening room. We watch it today.
Yes, the screening room. Always.
And we're watching it, and I'm like, all right, we're seeing her go day to day, day to day. At some point, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And so about 2 hours in, I sneak out. And one of my other professors who has like office, just happens to have office hours at this point. I go into his office, start chatting with him a little bit. He's like, he says, oh, y'all watching the movie today? What y'all watching? I'm like, Gene Dillman. He's like, oh, okay, now I know why you in here. I was like, bro, I does it go somewhere? He says, oh no, it does go somewhere. You should stick with it. It goes somewhere. I was like, okay. So I finally went back in there. And as the film ended, I was like, you know what?
Right, where she stabs the John who finally gave her pleasure for the one seeming moment of her life, and it scares her so much she actually stabs him to death, and you're like, ooh.
Right. And it's like, it's such a shocking moment, but like I remember walking away and thinking more about the film, and then I rewatched it again, and I was like, yo, this is a masterpiece, because I feel like this is part of what cinema is. Cinema not only entertains you, it also challenges you. Some ways provokes you. It's different types of cinema, but I like how there is a routine going on here, and this is this woman's life, and her white life slowly unravels day by day, of course. But I don't know about number one spot though. But it's just it's opinions. Everyone has their own subjective opinion about cinema, but I do believe it's top 10 to top 20 to me. It is a masterpiece for what it is. Brad, I know you haven't seen the movie, and I know we kind of I know we ruined
Sorry,
some
we
things.
Spoiled it for you.
But if you do
I'll
have
still
some
add
time,
it to the list.
If you have some time in your day, check it out. It really is a very influential movie. But all right, I think we're ready to top it off here. Molly, if you want to plug some stuff, tell the people where they can find you in your work.
All right, you can find me sometimes on the filmstage.com. I've done some trailer write-ups, and I've actually done a review and an interview for them, so that was great. And I also do on my own personal blog, Mollywood Writes at wordpress.com. And I'm also on Twitter, where I will post some about film, but a lot about Kate Bush. If you really like Kate Bush, definitely give me a follow. And I also have a letterbox too, just Molly_Rasberry. So if you want to check out my other opinions and see that, that's where I'll be.
All right, awesome. Brad, you got anything before we get out?
Nope.
Nothing more to add from me.
All right, y'all. It's been another great episode of DFV. Always remember to watch cinema, like, share, and subscribe. Take care.
Yep.